Welcome back guys to LeoGaming. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Assassin's Creed Origins, created by Ubisoft. Now I'm doing this because on November 17th we've got the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla coming out. So I'm going to be playing through from now until then Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey and doing a review on both games in order to give you a better judgment on whether or not you want to buy Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The reason why is because the Origins and Odyssey or Valhalla is going to be more like Origins and Odyssey, whereas if you're a fan of the previous Assassin's Creed games, then Valhalla probably won't be a favourite of yours. But yeah, I'm going to be doing the reviews anyway and letting you know what they're both like. So to start off today's Assassin's Creed Origins review, this, I will be honest guys, is an absolutely beautiful game. They have recreated Egypt stunningly, I'll be honest. It's set in a recreated Egypt around 49 to 47 BC and follows a Magi named Bayek and his quest to seek vengeance on all of those that were involved in the death of his son Kimu. Now I'll be honest with you, the environment's so good. I mean, including the wildlife, you've got all sorts of wildlife. You've got crocodiles, hippos, hyenas, lions, tigers, and they've recreated it beautifully. It looks like a natural working environment, and also the game looks stunning in both day and night cycle. You can sort of stand on a sand dune in the game, look up at the night sky, and it's an absolutely fantastic game to look at. To start with, I'm going to go into gameplay. I'm going to go into combat and stealth. So with the combat, I do find that it's very fluid. You'll have a standoff between various enemies. You'll have at least 3 or 4 or 5 enemies surrounding you. It's very fluid. You'll use your either a sword, you'll have your shield, but you'll use your sword, dual wielding weapons. There's various different weapons you can use. I'm a fan favourite of the sword or the dual wielding weapon. As I find they're both quick. I do like prefer a quicker movement when I'm fighting various enemies. And the only downfall to the combat is the lock-in. When you're locking onto an enemy, that can be very fiddly. You try and lock onto one enemy and it'll end up locking onto an enemy you don't want to lock on, and the one you originally wanted it to lock onto ends up hitting you and you obviously take some damage. I do find it very fiddly. You know, I play the game without using the locking system and just use my directional analog stick to aim where I'm actually who I'm trying to hit. But generally what happens is when you start aiming for that person, it will end up, the animation will take you to be hitting that enemy that you're going for. Apart from that, I do find the fluidity of the combat very good. It's quite easy, to be honest, to take down several enemies. Also, they do a nice little neat animation when, say for example, you've got 4 or 5 enemies, you take out 4 on the 5th enemy. What it will do is it will do once you nearly killed that 5th enemy, it will do a neat little animation where you hear the camera pans away a little bit and you see slicing, or the sound effects become more enhanced, it feels like, and you end up slicing and chopping the last enemy off, and it's a nice little animation, to be honest. It gives you more satisfaction that you've taken on a group of enemies, and normally that's a signal that there's no other enemies that have seen you or are near you, and you've finally killed the last enemy. In terms of stealth, I do find I am a stealth player. Personally, I will try and avoid the combat situations where and when I can. You can easily, I mean, a lot of people have said that, to be honest, I will be honest, that Origins and Odyssey are both steering more towards open-ended combat, whereas you can still play. I mean, I've heard people say, "Oh, it's too much combat." I said, but you can still play the game in complete stealth. In all honesty, I mean, I've taken on numerous encampments in stealth mode and just assassinated every single enemy there, which is my favourite way of playing the game. It will be for a lot of people because obviously that's what the game should really be about, but it is, the stealth is really, really good. I mean, you've got your usual, Ubisoft are brilliant at designing environments which allow you to do stealth missions. You've got the long grass, the sort of shrubs and the long flowers. You've still got those little huts that you jump in to hide, and the different stacks of hay or leaves they put on the floor that you can dive in and use them. They're still good at doing that. You can still do a whole enemy encampment and take out everyone using all those methods, which is what I mainly do. The only time I use unmanned combat is when I've been spotted, and which for some reason you find that you end up having the whole base surrounding you because for some reason one enemy spots you and then another, then another, then another. But yeah, I do find the stealth mechanics very, very, very good, as it should be, as it's called Assassin's Creed. In terms of travelling around the map, which is absolutely humongous, by the way, you do have your usual. You can run around, traverse the landscape running, or you can use horse or camel. I prefer the horse. And you do have a boat to navigate the water. Now, obviously, running around the landscape yourself is absolutely brilliant. You can literally climb and traverse absolutely anything and everything. If you see a big, massive cliff face, you can climb all the way to the top. I mean, they've literally made anything and everything climbable, traversable, walkable, runnable. You can swim, obviously, underwater as well, which, going onto water, you can use boats to travel around, and I'll be honest, nobody does water better than Ubisoft. They do it absolutely fantastic. The realism of their water in their games, especially the Assassin's Creed series, is absolutely fantastic. To be honest, they all started really with Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which was another favourite one of mine. But to be honest, they kind of had to be quite realistic with the water, as it was a pirate game. But since then, they've really done water really well. Even as far as, being in Egypt, the sand's quite green, as you can imagine, all the sand mixing in with it, so it becomes sort of greeny colour, which is really good. But the effects as well, the ripples as you're swimming, as you're using a boat to go through the water, all the effects of the splash and the rippling from the boat is really realistic. And I do love the way Ubisoft, you'll be hard pressed to find a game that does water better than the Assassin's Creed games. Not just that, you've got a horse and a camel as well. I preference the horse. They're quite easy to navigate. You do have an option where when you've got a target or a waypoint that you want to get to, you can hold a button down, and it will automatically ride the horse for you along a set path, and it saves you having to do it yourself, which is okay. I do that sometimes if the journey is a bit longer. But the AI on it is a bit silly, because it will just ram people down, innocent people down, and you won't avoid them. So that's down to you whether you want to play it that way. But actually riding the horse yourself is quite good, apart from if you're trying to traverse rocky landscape or steeper landscapes. You do find that it becomes a bit tricky and fiddly, especially if you're jumping off a slight height. The animation on that is absolute crap, to be honest. It looks really stupid. It's like you've got all these realism, and then just jumping off a slight height with your horse, it suddenly turns into this crap animation, which, if the height is too high, you will fall off your horse and take some damage. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, going around the landscape on your horse or camel generally is quite good. Like I say, you've got the boat mechanics are quite easy as well. It's not too difficult to navigate the water. It's quite fluid. It's quite an easy motion, to be honest. It's a boat, and you do find that you can get to places quite quick using your boat. Now, moving on to the menus, you've got the first one, which is ability points. The ability points menu, which is one of the main areas you will be focusing on throughout the game. I mean, you can pick up ability points from obviously every level when you level up, and there are other ways in which you can gain ability points, which I won't tell you in case you haven't played the game. You can discover that for yourself. But you do have certain areas on the game. You have 3 different aspects of the ability point tree. You have Hunter, Warrior, and Seer. Now, Hunter is obviously more for stealth approaches, hunting animals or using your long-range weapons, i.e. your bow and arrow. And then you've got your warrior, which is obviously more for your open-ended combat, you know, using your sword and your dual-wielded weapons. And then you've got seer, which is, to explain what seer is, that's more just sort of abilities almost. Things like being able to hold your breath for longer, reducing prices at the blacksmith or weaver, you know, different abilities like that just help your player progress. The tree itself is actually quite simple. I do like the ability tree on the game compared to a lot of games. I mean, The Witcher 3 is a brilliant game, but I do find the ability menu very confusing sometimes, whereas this keeps everything on one screen, quite an easily readable ability tree. I mean, I know I've seen the ability tree for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I'll be honest with you, it looks... Any ability screen where you have to move the screen itself is really irritating, to be honest to me. I don't really want that. I just want it all on one screen. You can see exactly what you're looking at rather than having to find everything. The next menu is the target menu. This is basically a menu where you get your targets, gives you a brief description of that target, and then once you eliminate that target, it will turn red. You don't have them straight away. You do have to do some reconnaissance and intel work, so it will just be blank until you find the target that you're after. Then you've got your gear menu, which shows all your, you know, the different weapons or armor and that. You do have some various things, like you choose your horse and whether you want your hood up or hood down, whether you want to be bearded, unbearded, long hair, short hair, little things like that. But you obviously have your weapons and your long range weapons, your armor, but mainly all you'll be looking at on there, which this is what I do, is the damage rating and the weapon level. What I do is, once you collect a whole load of new weapons, you go into your weapon menu, select the, say, swords, and all you're looking for really is the little green arrow that points upwards, which says that you've got a better weapon, practically more damage practically than the current weapon equipped. So yeah, that's mainly what I look at. Anyway, I don't look at the abilities on each weapon, because to me they don't change the thing on the game. I haven't noticed any effect on any of that. And then you've got the map menu, which will, to be honest with the map, it's obviously an overall, it's faded until you explore certain areas, then it opens up the map and opens up all the icons. Now, to me, with this game, I do find there are Ubisoft do it in general, but they have far too many icons now. I'm quite OCD when it comes to a game like this. I'm just one of those that like to do everything, and until every icon on that area of the map has a little tick next to it, I'm not happy. So it's quite draining for me, because I feel like I've got to do absolutely everything. I would much prefer it if they didn't have all the icons and they did it more natural, like the new Ghost of Tsushima game. They use environmental triggers and hints as to whether you're near something, which I think is what Assassin's Creed should do, to be honest. Use more environmental triggers. Don't have any icons flashing across your screen or on the map. Just keep it natural. You know, as you're exploring the world, you sort of come across and there's an environmental hint that you're near something. For example, rather than having question marks all over the map as well, have just the name of the building or the name of the place or the name of the landmark, and then you think, look, there's the pyramids. I'm going to go and have a look. Then as you approach, there's an environmental trigger or an environmental hint that you're near something that's happening there, rather than just being a blatant side quest symbol or question mark that says this is a side quest. I don't want to know if there's a side quest. I want to explore it and then come across a side quest rather than just already knowing it's there. But apart from that, the map's quite detailed. You see it's quite easy to navigate. Next, we're talking about level gating. Now, this game is based on leveling up from 1 to 40 on the base game. You do get level gating, which basically means that you get to a certain level, you want to continue the story missions, but unfortunately you need to be to a certain level. You could be 2 or 3 levels down and you would have to go and do a load of side quests. Now, personally, I think no game should force you to do side quests, but you should always be able to choose whether you want to do side quests. So what they should do, rather than using side quests to level up, they should change that. Take away the leveling system, which is what I think they've done in the new Assassin's Creed, but take away the leveling system, make it so it's more abilities that you're gaining, and then what you can do when you're doing side quests, if you want to do a side quest, reward with legendary items rather than rewarding with XP so you can level up. Reward side quests with legendary items, i.e. legendary sword, shield, piece of armor, horse, outfit, whatever. That will make it, to me, more exciting rather than it just being XP, because it can be very dull. Obviously I do side quests for a different reason, because I want the little green tick, but for a lot of people it is to level up. I don't have the level gating problem, because I generally do all the side quests before I move on to the next main mission anyway, so I'm always leveled up anyway, past what the level I need to be to move on in the story. But yeah, that's what I think should happen. I do find that also talking to the NPCs during the side quests is very dull. I mean, the cinematic cutscenes are absolutely brilliant, good acting, good voicing, but when it comes to talking to the NPCs where it doesn't go into a cutscene, it is, yeah, it's rubbish, to be honest. It's just very crap acting and very basic, but that's just, I think they can make them a lot more interesting. How, I'm not really 100% sure, but I think they could make that a lot more interesting. Next, moving on, you'll also find, yes, this game is an adult game, but it can be for kids as well. So parents out there, if you've got kids, if you want to buy Assassin's Creed to play yourself but use for the kids as well, there's something they call the which is Assassin's Creed. I think this is absolutely fantastic. I don't think we're learning for your kids is absolutely brilliant, but they do what you call a discovery tour, which is basically you get the world itself, but there's no stories, there's no missions, there's no enemies. You're literally running around in the world, and you go to each part of the world, each part of the map, each monument, landmark, whatever, and you talk to somebody, and they give you basically a history lesson on that monument or that landmark. A history lesson on that, and it also comes up in writing on the screen as well, and you get a voiceover basically reading that script, and it gives you a complete history lesson of that area. And to be honest, I think it's absolutely fantastic, because it can be such great learning for kids. I mean, imagine the kids have got an assignment on Egypt as in class, and they come back and you go, I'll tell you what, we'll stick on Assassin's Creed Origins and we'll do it that way. I mean, do you know what I mean? The teacher will be like, the kid can go with a bit of work and go, look miss, I've done about Egypt. Oh, it's fantastic, A plus that. And then the teacher goes, how do you manage that? Assassin's Creed, miss. Assassin's Creed. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think that's brilliant. But yeah, that's just me. So yeah, the game is great for learning as well. Absolutely fantastic for that. So you can buy it for kids. If you don't want them to play the game, then just do the discovery tour with them. So yeah, overall, I think the game is really, really good. I think Assassin's Creed have moved on from the old games. The older games were more for, obviously, assassinations, and that was it, but they have combined a lot of other elements into the newer versions, i.e. it's now an RPG game, stealth, combat, open world, all sorts of different elements they've mixed into this game, which I think is for the better. Personally, I do think it was getting a bit stale and boring with the old layout. Not a lot of people agree, not everyone agrees, sorry, not everyone agrees with me, but that's what I think. Personally, I think they had to move on to progress the game, and I do think it's a brilliant game now. So I would give this game, me personally, out of 10, I would give it an 8. Nothing to me would ever be 10, because nothing is ever perfect, everything can always be improved, but I would give this game an 8. So that is the end of the review for Assassin's Creed Origins. I would have missed a few points, so if there's anything you think I've missed, please leave me a comment below. And I hope you enjoyed this review, so please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you soon. Thank you.